Hello everybody, Daz here, welcome to episode 3 and 2 combined for my retro build, and the reason for that was that I shot episode 2, start editing it, and I felt that it's a little bit boring. So I figured out that I'm bored making video, you'll be bored watching it, and I decided to reshoot it and use small portion of the episode 2 in this video, but also condense certain part regarding painting, which usually not as exciting. It's just enough to say what you did instead of going into too much details. So, as you see, computer very much disassembled state, and it's a good example that when you're working on a modding project, the actual computer building portion, electronic or even water cooling, is sometimes not the longest part. The cabling and prep work takes quite a bit of time, but I'm getting closer to my final point, and I would like to show you what's happened since last video. Few areas that I had to work out, a few mistakes that I will happy to share, but they're inevitable when you are working on something, and we will go from the bottom up and I'll tell you what's happening. So one thing that happened since we last talked, I got unexpected sponsorship or help from a Corsair. I have a few friends there. We chat about this project, and they was nice enough to tell me that if I want few things from Corsair, they're happy to help me out. I got this wonderful AX1000 power supply from them, which I modded, and you can see that's what happened. Essentially, I painted the same color as any other components, and this was a little bit of hassle that I would like to share with you, and maybe will help you and save you a little bit of time in the future. So my idea, of course, was to paint this portion, the back portion of the power supply, which is totally black. And when I started disassembling, I removed all labels, I started disassembling my power supply, I found out that, well, it's not that easy. You take cover, remove fan connector, so this part is fine, and you have all electronics that bolted to this bottom section of this power supply. And the main hurdle that prevented me from painting the back side of PSU was the fact that how it's assembled. So you see it's like three plastic devices, if you will. There's a button for the fan control, on-off button, and plug for cable. So how it's done on practice, they actually insert it from outside, they get locked with a clip, and then wires get soldered to those components. So in order to remove guts of this power supply, I essentially have to solder some cables. And it's not end of the world, but for some reason I felt like really lazy to do that. So I just started looking for ways to maybe to work out something else. And as you remember, I think I mentioned it last time, but maybe not. So the back bracket, if you will, that used for this particular case, you have a two version. One with the two vertical mounts, as this one, you can see it's already attached, for two power supplies, or one power supply and cover, or you can have this one, which has one power supply and integrated grill. So it's either horizontal for the bigger version of PSU, I believe the one that was in the past, because you see the holes doesn't even match. Now power supply is much more efficient, much more smaller, so that doesn't work at all unless I use something old, or I have to use this one. And when I figure out that I cannot paint this cover, I decide that, well, maybe I'll just mounted it and put the cover on it and just cut some holes and do something like that, and it will be silver, right? So no big deal about cables and all those buttons, but overall it should look good. So I spent good deal of time lining up what parts of this thing need to be cut out. Mind that I don't have a workshop, so I use filer and saw basically to do that. And I perfectly cut it out, removed all imperfections, sanded a little bit, so I spent quite a few hours on this thing. Then I realized that I have only one. So that was a little bit unfortunate, so I basically ruined my only cover. I end up with trouble. So I start scrambling, what the hell I can do, where I can get another cover. And I was looking around for quite a few days, trying this and this. Was a lot of variations, believe me. I was really frustrated at that point. And finally, I was able to find big chunk of mesh available for me from my old Antec, I think it was 912 case or something like this. So some of you might remember, this is another very old case that a lot of people was using. So I took it out, cut it to the right size, did again the old holes that required all these buttons to be exposed, and it looks pretty good. And because power supply will be located essentially something like this, so it will be located like this, right? So the only part I needed to paint was top cover, which I did. And I also painted fan as well. So you can see it's all will be silver and will be matching remaining of the case and remaining of the parts. So in the end it went out okay, but it was a few very frustrating days while I was working on this thing. But I prevailed. So right now I'm pretty happy with the result. Some of you may be a little bit OCD about squares here, combs there, but I think it looks pretty good, and you only will see it on a couple of pictures anyways, because when it's installed in my basement, probably will never ever see that again. One thing that I would like to mention just about how packaging of power supply was changed since my last purchase of PSU last year. The cables got organized really neatly, so I found this bag of cables inside of the box, and look how it's done now. I don't know if you guys already saw it, but I found it's kind of really neat. So I have almost like military style thing with pockets, and they even have a Velcro here, right? So, right. So anyways, so all cables marked clearly. So if you person who likes things to get organized, you can keep your remaining cables pretty neatly. So that's the part about power supply, right? So we'll take it on the side right now. So PSU will be installed on the back. Everything will be silverish and hunky-dory. So moving to the front. But that I discussed in great detail in the video 2, but I just would like to give you a little scoop. So I mentioned in video 1, I want to fill every single out of 7 slots, and I did it. So how it looks preliminary, because maybe I shuffle later. So I have a Blu-ray, DVD-ROM, CD-ROM, whatever you call it. On the bottom I have this device, which is a like hidden compartment kind of thingy. And actually I really like this idea. A reason for that is because I always have all those adapters for video editing and SD cards laying always on my table when in the editing room in my basement. And I think this will be really cool that I will now can kind of put it inside of computer, so it will be always available, if you will. So I think it's pretty good. One part that I'm not 100% happy is that you can see those both devices sticking out a little bit, unlike everything else that I have, but what you can do. And the bad part about sticking out is that the window on the side, or on the front, on this side of computer, actually a little bit too big than I think they should do, and it partially shows this panel. So I think the window should be cut right when it ends. So you will see this line and you will see this stuff sticking out. This secret compartment thing will be second. I finish up this reservoir It will not be part of the loop, I already decided on it, but I think it's just look cool, and I'll use it strictly for show off if you want. So you can see I finally cleaned it, washed it, so this window in the front was very dirty from all this dry up liquid, so I cleaned it up. I put mesh behind those holes because those holes always kind of bothering me in the past when I use this thing a couple times in my previous builds, but now it will be act as a filter, and also you can't see any unwanted lights or cables through those massive cutouts, so it will be looking much nicer in my personal opinion. And I will have LED light with alpha cool fittings. They have this long fitting which just glows like a stick, and it looks actually pretty cool. So I didn't decide on the color yet, but it will be kind of reactor core. And some of you might saw a little video I posted on Facebook just for fun of it. And then I put, how's it called? Jesus Christ, plasma ball. Yeah, that's the name. So I put a plasma ball just for fun of it. But it looked cool, but I'd probably use it if it wouldn't be pink, but it's actually pink and blue. So if it would be completely blue, I might give it a shot. And I don't use wireless. Some of you said that your wireless will be screwed. I don't care. All stuff in basement hardwired, like a netter. So anyway, so that will be just a dummy thing, but it's just for show off. And we have flow meter display. Discuss the two. Painted, all ready to go. So it will be another slot. And final two slots will be covered with the controllers that we discussed in big lens last time, so not even going to spend any time on that one. Right, so moving further, on the back, that was a little bit of another disappointment, if you will, on two levels. One level, I hope maybe to use a smaller fans, and I have those nice deltas, which is only 10 millimeters thick, so it will be, I think, might look a little bit cooler, not as chunky, but actually that's 80 millimeter ones, and I don't deal with small fans much, but realistically the size of the fan on the back is 92, so that didn't work out. So you can see naturally I decided just to paint them to match the rest of the case, and that we'll have here. Not sure if I need grills, but probably I will, but we'll see. So those two. I had idea to put a small dual 92mm radiator, and there was another third mistake that I did here. Guys, it's like Watercooling 101. Before you buy anything, measure it. So I'm like, whatever, just order it. And the radiator essentially doesn't fit because this section for fans, it's super tight. Like you don't have any additional space here, so you have this PCI bracket right under the fan, you have stuff on top, also doesn't allow you too much room to wiggle, and your radiator have a tanks on both sides, so you need a little bit few millimeters, centimeters more. So no way I can put it, even if I mount fans first, then radiator second, it will be covering big chunk of the motherboard, because the radiator that I ordered from Watercooling is actually 45mm too. So I decided to scrap it. I will give it a shot with whatever 45mm I already upgrading to bigger radiators than I have right now. With faster fans, you can increase radiator or you can increase speed of the fans, right? So it gives you exactly the same result. You increase your performance. So hopefully it will work. If not, we'll see. Because my target to avoid any radiators on the bottom area. Not only because you will have to make like special provisioning for it, because obviously it wasn't designed for that, but also filling and draining system with radiator in a compartment, bottom compartment, it's so doesn't easy. So like this simple loop will be easy to maintain in case I need to do liquid changes down to the road or whatever. I'll do some hardware upgrades if I will. Next part that I fiddle a little bit. I already draw some preliminary loop layout that allow me to make certain decisions. I decided to go with heat killer glass tube reservoir. It's totally awesome thing, always like it. never use. So it will be, it's probably third year or second year at least for this particular model. And I have a lot of customers buying it from me. Always was envy. Now I have one too. I did a small upgrade by default. 4 sides was black, and I upgraded poles with the silver one, which will be matching the rest of the system. The color of this aluminum post actually almost identical to my paint, so it's no further upgrades required. The bracket, as you see, brackets comes obviously black. I painted it with the same silver paint. Need to paint more. I just did like one color. This was the sake of fitting things out. Until I remove motherboard, which I have to disassemble my work computer, I wouldn't know for sure. So I'm just trying to play with things. But that's how I hope I do it. And I'd like to tell you that also I could have it in the middle, or I can move it further a little bit to the front. And it seems like I will do it like this. But when I light tubes, I will know better. But right now, that's my plan, that bring it a little bit closer towards the window, and I think it will look kind of nicer. Now, one of the reasons when you see that everything disassembled, I don't have any electronic components. I even remove the front buttons. So there's nothing, absolutely no electronic components in the system. I still consider potentially to drill holes maybe in somewhere here, so I don't know where, in this motherboard tray. Maybe I'll drill a hole, I don't know if you can see, on this 525 side, one of the side panels 525, because I don't want to run tube all the way across. It's kind of OCD problem, but nevertheless, I maybe will go just past motherboard, just go past motherboard, go through the tray, and then I loop whatever the way I want, and so it will be like going straight. No real reason of like benefit except visuals in my eyes to do so, but until I decide if I drill anything or not, it will be no electronic components installed. When I know that it's final, then I start assembling. So that's the answer why it's basically, every time you look on my case, it's losing parts. Yeah, so that's what's happening. I keep removing everything, including hard drive cases. You see, that's everything get removed. Alrighty, so last part that we need to talk today and shows like final progress is the fact that I wanted bigger radiator, but the problem is that the room that you have, probably out of frame right now, you can see this is not much space between tops portion of the case itself and where motherboard starts, plus you need fans on top of it. So it was either use the same slimmest possible radiator, so no improvement for me in terms of performance except the faster fans, or I have to do something. And I come up with the idea of raising fans through the roof, and that will allow me to utilize all available space for a bigger radiator, and that's what I did. I explained and shot it in episode 2, and I'm going to actually insert that portion of the video for you because it was disassembled, it was a little bit easier to show how it happened. But right now, only thing I want to say is that you might see a little bit that the radiator I painted, and I decided on silver fans because I tried blacks, it was okay, try silver, looks better. So that's what happened. So let's check how I explain things in episode 2 about radiator mounting. On the way, I come up with ideas which I tested, and I decided to run with it. So how Bill Owen cut the top case for me, you can see it. So it was provisioning for dual fans. I don't even know how it looks, but he cut this big portion of the case so triple radiator can be mounted. And I figured out, so as long as fans actually can go through the hole. You can see it's like exactly perfect 100, more than 120 millimeters, just by a little bit. So I actually can put fans above the case. And I start thinking, well, how I do it, and will it look ugly or not? And I mounted it and it looks really cool. So I decided to run with that. What I did to raise the whole assembly, I essentially took very old CPU mounts from some EK, I don't even know, probably before Evo. I think it was original Supremacy. So this is really old mounting mechanism that just was lying around. And I put it upside down, put this spring, and that I created a little bit raise, which was almost exactly of 25 millimeters, which I really like. And that allows me to put cover for radiator, bullet by MPC Tech on top, and have fans be right under it. Unfortunately, it's not assembled at this particular moment, but I would like to tell you that it's actually look really cool. So it will look approximately, well, I can't really do it, but maybe I can. Let's do it this way. So if I bolt it here, it will be sticking exactly of the size of the fence, and that will allow me to use a radiator 45 millimeter thick radiator instead of 30 millimeter thick radiator, and it will still have enough clearance, which is great. So you can see I will have 3 fans there. I debated keep them black or paint silver, and I decided black looks pretty cool because it's under, it's in the dark, so it looks perfectly normal. But I decided to give it a shot and paint them silver. If I don't like it as a final assembly, I can always switch to black fans and just use those or something else. So the ones I use is a Gentle Typhoon Dark Side Black Edition, and I only painted silver only one side, the one which will be visible from the side of this radiator cover. So that's what's going on here. Also, additional benefit of having spring system right there, I actually can fine-tune the height, so all fans will be sticking exactly how much I want and have enough clearance. The radiator I'm going to use will now have in pull configuration, because fans on the top pulling air through. So dark side 45 millimeters. I painted it out. Not sure which way I will orient it. Probably this, maybe that, who knows. But this is a 45 millimeter radiator, will be fit just perfectly fine right in this little space that I have. So that's the plan for now. That's the only portion of 2 you will be seeing, guys, but believe me, the rest was boring. I hope today I'm a little bit better than I did last time, so you will enjoy it a little bit more. So what's left? Still need to install GPU block on my 2080, and after that I need to a little bit do second coat for a few places, and I will disassembling my system and trying to fiddle about actual water cooling after that. That may delay video production, obviously, because no computer, no videos, but I hope no major surprises in that department. And well, when it's ready, then it's ready. So it will be interesting build. I'm really still excited about it. Guys, this looks so awesome. I really want this computer, so as much as I can, I work on it, believe me. Thank you for watching. See you soon with the next episode.